All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We have a thrilling webinar lined up for you. We have Dr. Michele Covington, Professor of Criminal Justice and Executive Director of Greenville Programs at University of South Carolina Upstate. This is the second webinar in a series of two in partnership with Simsi, Microsoft, and the Upstate Crime Analysis Center. I also want to thank Brianna, Director of the Upstate Crime Analysis Center, for joining us today as well. She gave the first presentation, which was recorded and is also available on the Simsi YouTube channel. We will make this video available as well, so if you know anybody who wants to follow up with this, we'll make sure that they're both posted and shared with everybody who registered for today's webinar. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Michele. I just want to remind everybody that there's two links in the chat window. One provides additional information to Action Hub, which is a place-based project management platform, and has a learning center, which will have access to more detailed micro courses on this and other topics, which I know Michele is going to mention. She's got a series of mini courses lined up, and I'm actually excited to learn from them, just based on our discussions about those. And we also have some information about the next project that we're working on together, which is an in-person workshop set for December 11th in Greenville, South Carolina, hosted at the Upstate Crime Analysis Center. It's free, full day, food, um, coffee, and a lot of great conversation and real meaningful takeaways for that. So please register for that, and I hope to see you in South Carolina in December. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michele. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Joel. Well, as Joel just said, I am a faculty member in the criminal justice program at USC Upstate and also work with the Upstate Crime Analysis Center. A lot of my work, both as a faculty member and in the field, has always revolved around collaboration between law enforcement agencies and academia, the public, or some mixture in there. So I'm really excited to be able to bring a few notes for you today, hopefully a jumping off point or a growing point on how crime analysis and those skills and strategies within crime analysis can be used in agencies across the board. So I think sometimes we have in mind larger agencies, medium agencies have the capacity for crime analysts, but most of the law enforcement agencies in the United States are small. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how any agency can use some of these tools and resources. The content today is designed more for law enforcement decision makers, people who are in law enforcement agencies who are considering whether to integrate crime analysis or more crime analysis, but hopefully there will be a little here for kind of everybody, regardless of the position that you're in. So first of all, I would love to, sorry, my mouse is a little hinky today. First of all, I would love to just kind of find out who is here. If you could take a look at this and mark the number in the chat of where you feel like your agency currently falls, anywhere from I don't really understand what crime analysis is at a 1 to we have one or more analysts or a team and everyone understands their role, be a 4. So see who we're talking to. people at 3 and 4 agencies may, that's awesome to see. Um, you may get a little reminder of a few things early on, since this is designed for someone at any level. All right. Well, I'm going to keep rolling. First of all, a couple reminders, or if this is new to you, I know we do have a couple people here this is new for. Crime analysis is both a profession and a process where we use quantitative and qualitative techniques to analyze data, basically. Lots of different types of data, internal police data at the agency, external data through the government, through other sources. Crime analysis, crime analysts can study crime and criminals, victims, prevention, problem solving, evaluation, quality of life, all sorts of different things, internal operations in the agency. So crime analysts work in lots of different places in an agency, depending on the agency's mission, what the analysts are doing there, and can have a lot of really different roles. So just to keep in mind the breadth of that. And for those who are less familiar, here are a few things that analysts can do. Obviously not inclusive, but a few things to get you thinking and give you a jumping off point. So because your analysts generally will see incident reports when they come in, they often can be the first to spot crime series, any kind of patterns, hotspots, especially as they're building in. If there are things you haven't known about for a while, a lot of times they're first to spot these things. They can also help with long-term problems. So the research, the strategy behind a long-term problem, all of the pieces that have fit together over time to create that problem, because we know those things don't happen in a vacuum. Your analyst can assist with that. They can also assist because they understand data and your agency's data, and they can take those data and put them in formats that are more accessible for leadership, for decision making, for the municipality, or wherever it is that your agency is situated, for the public, even in a format that's digestible, that can support the operations of your agency and support the strategies that you use. And then also they can work with intelligence if there are local threats as compared with state and national threats. So these are just a few, just a little sprinkling of what an analyst in your agency might be able to do for you. Okay, so as a sort of a demonstration of the different types and sizes of agencies who find that using crime analysis is valuable to them, I'm just going to share a couple of things from agency heads. Okay. This is a quote. Crime analysis within a police agency, regardless of size, is essential to enhancing the safety, effectiveness, efficacy, and responsiveness of its patrol and investigative operations. Information gathered and drilled down into actionable intelligence, especially when it is compiled and disseminated in real time, is a game changer. Timely and accurate information helps determine the best use of departmental resources as far as deployment and the development of strategies to address crime and quality of life issues. So that comes from Chief Alonzo Thompson. He is currently the chief at the city of Spartanburg, South Carolina. Chief Thompson's agency employs about 125 or so, and now has traditional crime analysis functions alongside a real-time crime center where at all hours, they're able to jump in automatically. They can view body-worn cameras, cameras around the city, able to jump in right away. So they have those real-time functions as well as traditional analysis of data over time and coming in from incident reports. So Chief Thompson has about 125. This chief says, we've used data derived from our crime analyst function for close to 20 years. Crime patterns, especially property crimes, are presented to a group of supervisors and investigators as part of our crime reduction strategy meetings. We are able to come together and create a plan of action based upon the information presented by our analyst. Our crime analysis process is invaluable to our agency. So that is another local chief I've worked with. You'll find a pattern there. Most of the agency heads I've worked with are in South Carolina. That's Chief Matt Hamby from Greer PD. Chief Hamby has about 92 personnel, about 64 of them are sworn. And his agency is in charge of the municipality of Greer, but the municipality of Greer is growing exceedingly quickly, is located between two different counties, contains an international airport, an inland port, several lakes, several major international business locations, including BMW's headquarters. So it's a very interesting jurisdiction. So he has well under 100 sworn, but a lot of things happening in his agency to where he currently has one full-time analyst, but has discussed here and there about growing that. Okay, and then one more. Crime analysis allowed us to take an evidence-based policing approach to a long-standing crime problem with the added issue of a language barrier. We've nearly eradicated criminal domestic violence now in our main Hispanic trailer park in the county. So this was a quote from a project I worked on a little while back from then Chief Deputy John Edwards with Evans County in Georgia. Evans County at that time had 12 sworn personnel. And they had one who they had kind of shifted into a quasi-analytical role. And with 12 deputies, the chief said, if I had to lose somebody, it would be a deputy. It would not be my analyst. So I always kind of think back to that. They had 12 deputies, but still, once they started applying some of the tools and the resources, it had such an impact on them. They actually ended up going around and doing talks and helping other agencies to use some of the tools they had used. So it was really cool. So it's just to give you a little example of different feedback, and these are quotes from different agency leaders. So in terms of your own agency, first of all, the first logical question is, how many analysts should you have? You don't know how to get to where you're going if you don't know where you're going. There are some rough guidelines. These are just guidelines. It's going to depend in real life, on your agency mission, the growth rate of the population, and all sorts of other things that are unique. But generally speaking, these are the guidelines from the International Association of Crime Analysts on how many analysts should be in an agency. And they say if you fall, below a number, round up. So I'll give it just a minute so you can kind of think about, I think most people, the sworn officers is what they know first of all, then maybe calls for service, but I'll give it a second so you can think about your own agency. Okay, so this gives you a guideline, just a jumping off point to start. The other main thing to think about is the types of analysis you need within your agency. I have listed 4 types of analysis. 3 of them are no-brainers. Everybody with experience on this webinar will probably be like, yes, the top 3 are 3 of the 4. The 4th one's a judgment call. Somebody might fight me on it. That's not always the 4th one that gets included, but based on what I have seen, especially at agencies who don't have a lot of analysts, there is a lot of crossover into intel. So I'm going to leave that there. So considering the types of analysis, tactical analysis is directed at short-term deployment, resources for patrol functions, for investigative functions. Mostly you're using internal data to the agency. You're using calls for service, incidents, other types of police or law enforcement restricted databases. And generally, tactical analysis will apply to space and time, your offenders, your victims, maybe their MO. And this type of analysis is really good for finding repeats, finding patterns, series. And sometimes if there's a really critical or high profile incident, it can also be used for one-off incidents, that sort of thing. Strategic analysis is more long-term. This is the type you're going to use if you're looking at long-term problems, long-term crime trends, hotspots that have been around for a while. You might look more into policy, strategy, techniques. Generally, strategic crime analysis is going to use internal agency data as well as external data, maybe geographic data, census data, other data in the jurisdiction. And you're generally looking at long-term trends and problems. That one spot where you have had this, so much crime over the years, or this one type of crime that has been a problem for so long. Administrative analysis is a little different. That is designed to meet the administrative needs of the police agency, and then by extension, the community that's being served. The audience for administrative analysis is generally police administration, maybe other government officials who are involved in decision making. So this varies a lot by project in terms of what types of data are used. The focus, a lot of times these are analyses of resources, of budgets, sometimes staffing, those sort of things. This type of analysis, even if you have analysts within your agency, tends to get outsourced a lot because it does require sort of a deeper quantitative statistical skill set sometimes. So some agencies are able to do that in-house. Some of them outsource this type, but something that every agency needs at some point. Then the fourth that I've included here is crime intelligence analysis. So intel analysis is more focused on the people involved in the crimes. It tends to be more proactive rather than responding based on data of what has already happened. Intelligence analysis might involve looking at repeat offenders and victims networks to look at where the direction may go in the future. You may use internal and external data. In intel analysis, you are also more likely to use open source data because you're looking at people networks. So you may be looking at a criminal gang of some type. You may have a protest or some kind of large event in your jurisdiction coming up, and you may want to do some analysis on those types of things. So it's more person focused. So if you are considering your current level of analysis and whether or not it's appropriate, these would be two of the main things to look at first. Now, if you have figured out where you need to go, we're going to talk about a few things also about how to get there. So first of all, if you are feeling that your agency needs to hire analysts, you don't have analysts, but you should, or you don't have enough, there are a few main things to consider along the way. I'm going to give you my top three. First, make sure you are involving analysts in your hiring process at all stages. That might mean developing the ad, talking about the salary range, preparing for what resources will be needed, all the way through the panel interview, the interview board, what practical exercises you might give candidates to assess some of those practical skills. If you do not already have analysts, excuse me, or if you do not know of analysts in nearby jurisdictions, there are a lot of other ways to get that sort of feedback. You can go to your regional crime analysis association. If you're not sure about that, you can go to the International Association of Crime Analysts, and they list all the regionals, as well as a lot of other resources in that area. So definitely be sure you're involving analysts in your hiring process. Being proactive in that way has a big payoff in terms of making sure you're asking the right questions. The next of the top three would be consider the qualifications that you post for very carefully. So in some areas, one of the things that I have seen a lot is confusion over the certification process. And I serve on the certification committee for IACA, so I like to be very clear about that piece. If you are hiring for analysts, having the preferred qualifications include some sort of certification may make sense for you. I would think very carefully about making it required. The certification process is still not that old, and there are two types of certification for crime analysts through the IACA. The first is the LEAF certification. That's the Law Enforcement Analyst Foundation's certification. Someone with that certification has proven that they are at a point in their knowledge and skills where they are prepared to enter a crime analysis position. So they have what they need to get started. You can bring them into the agency, and assuming they have the resources they need, the equipment they need, they can function on a basic level as a crime analyst independently. The LEAF certification is really very new, so there aren't that many yet. So I would still not recommend making LEAF certification required because you're going to have almost no one to choose from when we consider the entire population. But it's reasonable to require LEAF passed within, a year, something like that. Maybe you say, hey, as a condition, I want you to be LEAF certified within a year, something along those lines. The other type of certification with IACA is the CLIA certification, the Certified Law Enforcement Analyst certification. This is where we see a lot of miscommunication. Sometimes agencies post this as a requirement. That is a huge mistake. CLIA is designed as a pinnacle of your career sort of certification. So whereas LEAF says I can enter an agency and function as a crime analyst, CLIA says you could take me out of my agency, drop me anywhere, and I can do all of the things. To even sit for the CLIA exam, you have to have a few years of experience full-time as a crime analyst in a law enforcement agency and a host of other types of education and mixture of things to even be able to sit for the exam. So there are, nobody go back and quote me on this, I forgot to look it up, but I want to say there are maybe 150 CLIA certified analysts. So don't require that. But consider in your other qualifications, the blend of education that may be had. If you have someone who has been through a college or university program or other types of training programs in crime analysis, they should have practical examples, a portfolio, something like that, to be able to show you. Use those skills tests to be able to check for those skills. So yeah, I would be very careful about the qualifications, particularly when it comes to certification, but also in terms of experience in education. I have seen I've seen several agencies advertise for a certain number of years of experience and end up having to kind of scale back and not be able to get the variety that they need, or feel like someone might have been a good fit, but they don't have the years and need to adjust later. So you can always throw that in the preferred qualification side and save yourself some headaches. Okay. Last but definitely not least, you need to be attractive to applicants also as an agency. Going to the point I just made about not having as big a pool as you might have hoped based on your ad, analysts who have experience and who have proven they're really good at their job have options. So if you have people applying, especially if you're interviewing, if you're to the point of having conversations with them, you have to be able to show them that you have carefully considered this role. You know what you need in this role. You are prepared for answering questions about where in the agency they may be housed. Are they going to be, in the hallway outside admin? Are they going to sit in CID? Questions like that. Be prepared to answer questions about long-term agency goals, about what they can expect in terms of support from agency leadership, especially as they are getting in, sort of getting ingrained in the agency, getting to know people, and hopefully getting people to come to them for assistance. Be prepared to talk about the training budget and the equipment and software budget. So training for every analyst you have should be ongoing. They should be going to trainings, participating, and that's something that is really required if you want them to be able to hone skills and learn along the way, and also make good partners so that they have people to reach out to if they get stuck. So training as well as equipment, an appropriate workstation, all of those things that we go into a little bit more here, and more so in the courses we've built for this. And then also the candy bowl. If you employ an analyst, they have to have a candy bowl. It has to have good candy, not cheap candy, so that people will come and talk to them and ask them for stuff and start conversations. The candy bowl is very important. All right. Okay. So a lot of agencies might say, I need more analytical capability than I have, but we are not in a position to go hire analysts right now. If that is the case, there are another set of 3 guidelines I'm going to give in terms of trying to get from where you are to where you need to go, and just smaller things you can do to start. Like we talked about in the beginning, most agencies in the US are small, and it may not make sense to have a full-time analyst. That's pretty common. That doesn't mean that you can't use analysis and have those functions incorporated into your work and your decision making. So whether you don't feel like you need a full-time analyst, or you just think I do, but we're nowhere near that, that's gonna take a while. There are a few things you can do in the meantime. First, assess what you already have. It is highly likely that there's some type of analysis going on in your agency and you don't realize it. The person who is conducting the analysis may not realize it. They might not know what to call it, but every agency has those people who kind of digs more into the patterns and tries to understand the data and calls it out when those things aren't correct. And it is entirely possible that you already have at least someone, maybe some people within your agency who are doing some sort of analytical functions, but don't necessarily rise to the level of functioning as an analyst, either because they don't have the training to do that, or because they have another job to do and they're busy, right? So think for your agency, think about what you already have, what you might be able to start with and build from. The second tip I would give you is try to work analysis into the operations you already have. Hiring an analyst or another analyst might feel like a really huge lift, but adding in some analytical capability to the agency the way it's already set up might be a little bit more doable. So you might need to just provide some training, some crime analysis training. You might have a current employee who's really interested in data and how they fit together, or in digging for those patterns or those things that don't make sense. Someone who's naturally inclined to do that, who enjoys that. If that's the case, you can get them some training at first a fairly inexpensive amount. Make sure they have the proper equipment, at least to begin functioning. And you can use that as a jumping off point. A lot of agencies have someone who is maybe in patrol, who really is inclined towards those types of skills, interested in it, and just does that a bit on the side. Getting them a little bit of training, making sure they have the equipment they need it doesn't take much resources, but it can really pay off. The third thing I would say is make sure you're being a partner. And this is really critical. So depending on the area that you are in, you may have regional crime analysis associations, you may have fusion centers, you may already have an umbrella that is connecting different agencies and resources so that people are already working collaboratively. If you can't find that, reach out to your neighboring jurisdictions, see if there's something out there, see if there's something that can be started so that smaller agencies who maybe don't need or can't get a full-time analyst may be able to band together. That makes it a lot more affordable and a lot simpler sometimes depending on your RMS and your data sources and things like that. So do that, see where you are. The Upstate Crime Analysis Center here at USC Upstate serves as one of those consortiums. Any agency in our area can come here, and for a fraction of the cost of a full-time analyst, they can get either ongoing basic analytical support and products, one-time problem-oriented policing or problem-solving type things, and a variety of other trainings and contract opportunities along the way. So you may have something like this in your area. I think we're pretty unique, so you may not, but you definitely have agencies who are not reaching their analytical capability and maybe would prefer to start small, dip their toes in a little bit. So find them. And if you can't, let one of us know and we will try to help you find them, because by and large, crime analysis is still not that huge a field. So degrees of separation probably aren't that big. So we definitely can help with that. Okay, so I am going to share my info, and it was almost painful not to include memes throughout this entire presentation. So I had to get at least this one in because it's one of the best. Here's my LinkedIn. Here's my contact info. Brianna has added the UCAC information in the chat. I believe in the chat there also is information on our upcoming live training in Greenville, South Carolina. It's a full day training on December 11th. And then I believe there's also information on Simsi's Action Hub, which I think Joel may talk about more, but that is where the 3-course sequence that builds on this that I had developed for decision makers is going to be housed. So you definitely want to try to go ahead and get access to Action Hub. There's a lot already there, and there's more being added constantly. So with that, I will see if we have questions and turn it over to Joel.
All right, thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. You can also put your questions in the webinar chat, and we will try to address them there. Give everybody a little bit of time to think of their questions, write them down. Or stir the courage to ask.
If you're too shy, you can email me.
So yeah, so while you're deciding, we'll just let you know that you're not alone in any of this. So if you have any questions, you can please feel free to follow up with us at Simsi, or just contact Michelle or Brianna at the Upstate Crime Analysis Center directly. They'd be happy to answer any of your questions. We're all working on this together, so we'll be sure to forward any information that you send to one of us to all of us, and kind of work together to make sure that we give you the most comprehensive answer for any questions you have. All right, it looks like we have a hand up.
A very tricky question. What kind of candy goes in the candy bowl? This is very tricky to me because I have no self-control with chocolate. Normally I would put chocolate. Chocolate draws in a good crowd, but I can't. So I make sure that I have chewy stuff and sour stuff because I'm not going to eat that. And it has to be brand name. I think being brand name is what really impresses, the guys and girls on patrol.
What are your thoughts on individually wrapped?
I mean, yeah, that's gross, Is it more expensive? Yes, but is it worth the investments also, yes, because there's such a wide variety of different types of people that work in a law enforcement agency.
Yeah, a spoon in the dish does not solve that problem. Any other questions? All right. Well, if not, I think we'll call it. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We really appreciate it. We know it's valuable. If you think of anything at the last minute, please feel free to follow up. Until then, we'll close out this meeting, this webinar. We'll save this video and send it out to everybody who registered and to those of you who are able to participate. Thank you to Michelle. Thank you to Brianna. Thank you to Andy for making this happen. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all of you. And until next time,
Thanks.
have a good day. Bye.